Hey guys, welcome to Judge Jodi, Paxton Road's Premier League Player Rating show. Guys, joining me tonight, I have the one and only Jack and Nikki back in the house. Jack, I want to ask you how you are, but I'm probably sure I know how you are. How are you? It's
I feel like it has been a while since the last time I've been on the player
been a
ratings.
long
I can't even
time,
I
right?
feel like it was the Newcastle game or something, if I remember. So, that was a weird
It
one,
was
a
a
very
long time ago.
that
Too
was a
long.
yeah, that was too long, but it was a weird game, I think, in comparison to this one. I'm actually honored that you brought me on for that
Oh.
last one, where that last one, it felt like a good player ratings, where it was like a confusing game where we looked good, but we lost, kinda game. Where this
Yes,
one, it's
yeah.
like one of the worst performances of the
Sorry.
season. So I think I'll smash this out of the park with the worst performance of the season. I don't think I'll get anything wrong.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining me on
Thanks for
this
having me.
occasion.
Yeah.
It's always you always want to have someone that you're kind of comfortable with on these shows
Please
because you
through
don't
this.
know, yeah, you don't know how you're going to go. And I know I think that you've got a lot of great points all the time about the players and everything. So I think we can really break it down this evening, and I think you're going to have some good things to say about these guys. But I mean, where do we start? Like, just high level, like, what are your thoughts on the game? I don't even know if I if I can
Yeah.
ask you that.
I'll keep it brief. I would say it's so Spurs to go from basically what most thought the best performance of the season to the worst performance of the season, within a week. I think
Yeah.
Spurs are never the team to like gradually work their way into the worst performance of the season. They're very much like the polar type team where they'll go from their best version of themselves to their
Mhm.
worst version of themselves within a space of a few days. And that's what often leaves us, I think, even more confused always about this team is that
Mhm.
it's also even maybe what leads to divide in like the fan base to a degree
Mm.
because it's like one time you're getting fed like a very optimistic version of ourselves with Spurs, and then the other week you're getting fed like the worst version, but it's never like consistent. It's never like
Yep. Yep.
3 weeks of optimism, 3 weeks of negativity. It seems to be just one week out and in. And I
Mhm.
know I haven't even talked about the game at all, but I feel like this game reflects maybe what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I don't know what you think. Yeah.
I 1,000% agree. Like the number one thing, like for me, is the inconsistency. I think the inconsistency in this team is an absolute joke, and it's been like that for how many seasons now. It's like we go and show up to these massive games, like the Man City bright lights,
Yeah.
Sunday or Saturday afternoon, Saturday night kind of games, and then these games against Leicester. Like I always blame Burnley. Sorry, Burnley fans, if you're listening, but like games like
Yeah.
Burnley, those kind of like those kind of smaller league games that they just don't show up, and it's the inconsistency, and it's time and time and time again, and it's just we've had so much of it, and I can't defend these guys. Like it's just, and talking
It
about defending the defense.
it's even also to get
What?
like a good idea of maybe what's going wrong. You'd almost rather they lose like 3 games in a row so you can
Yeah.
really like certify like, okay,
Yeah.
this is exactly what seems to be going wrong. But we often seem to go maybe we'll lose one game, draw the next, and then win the one after that, like 4-0, and then you're just
Yeah.
like, I don't know what to think of this team anymore. And I still like even you and I were talking in the back end, it's like, well, we were in this position last season, like, and somehow we
There's hope. There's
clawed
hope.
our way out. But
Mm,
I don't
yeah.
have answers. I came here to bring answers, and I've not done my job. But I'll find some mid show. Maybe I'll find some mid show.
It'll come, it'll come.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think we should probably get into it. But guys,
yeah.
if you are just joining us, please like and subscribe. Subscribe to Paxton Road TV, and like the show. Obviously, like I say, every single week, like really appreciate you guys being here. And if you can put your ratings in the chat as well, Jack and I will do our very best to get through those. Always really good to have your opinion. So yeah, please put them in there. And just a special shout out to David Clark. Hi, David. Hi from Leicester. At least 80% of my family are happy. I know. I was thinking about you yesterday about that game. How's the household going there? I don't know if you're. I think you're probably aware, Jack, but David's wife is from Leicester. So
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think
yeah,
they kinda needed that win, to be fair, and also, I
yeah,
imagine, like, things, in Leicester are actually quite, maybe peaceful or lovely at the moment because they had a great win against Aston Villa away from home, I believe, and then
yeah.
they've
They did
now
actually. Yeah.
us at home. Like, kind of all of a sudden, the LinkedIn manager, Brendan Rodgers is, looking competent again.
Brendan
Like,
Rodgers.
he isn't
People
trying to
keep,
get sacked anymore.
yeah, I know. People keep trying to say Brendan Rodgers to Spurs, and I'm like, no, man, it's not happening. I do not want that to happen.
Mm.
Right, Jack. What are we saying about Fraser? Fraser Foster stepping in for Larice yesterday. What are we saying?
Yeah. This
What we
one's
say?
this one's tough. We both went for 4s here. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like he didn't have a great game. I'm not gonna, like, try
No.
to protect him or anything
Don't
like that.
sugarcoat it. Don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, no need to. But at the same time, like, I also find it absolutely hilarious for the ones that are like, then like, see, this is why you don't drop Larice. It's like, well, Larice has still been like single-handedly the worst keeper like in
Yep.
the Premier League statistically this season, and
Mhm.
also has single-handedly lost us both North London derbies, lost
Mhm.
us or drew that game against West Ham for us. Like, he has basically probably
Yeah.
made us drop points in all of the big games this season, I would say,
Yep.
Larice, in some way or form. And in probably some of those games, even like single-handedly kind of made us lose the
Mhm.
game.
Mhm.
And so you're just kind of like, I have said this before with Forster, it's kind of like the bar is so low at the moment
Yeah.
that I genuinely don't care how bad he plays, because as long as
He's not
he
gonna make those errors, is he?
it's kinda like
Hopefully.
with Hugo for
Yeah.
me, it's like, as long as he doesn't parry it into his own net into 2 North London derbies in a row, making us go 2-1 down, like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
gonna, like, get
Yeah.
that mad at him. It's like, I think he could let in 3 more goals, like, sillily before I still even, like,
Mm.
get more frustrated with him than I am
Would
Lloris.
with
So,
Hugo. Yeah.
I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that. Like, not a good game
Yeah.
for him, but it's
Yeah.
still it's gonna be like
Better,
what, like
maybe.
10 more games of this, 10 more games of this before I start questioning him
Yeah.
more than I
Yeah.
have Lloris. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it now. Like, I think when people were maybe a few months ago, like maybe before the World Cup, when people were starting to say we should play Forster over Lloris, I was kind of like, you can't do that. He's the safe, like Lloris is the safest option, because I just didn't trust Forster. I mean, Lloris is like the World Cup winning goalkeeper. He's got all
Mhm.
this experience, all of that kind of thing. I was always like, you just can't put Forster in place of him. But obviously, as the season's gone on and the mistakes and everything that we've seen, it's just, how reckless Hugo's been in games. He's been amazing in some, and he's been absolutely, just as you were saying, like diabolical. The errors that he's making are just stuff that you wouldn't see in like really junior lower league like teams. Like, it's stuff that you would just expect Forster to come in and not have to,
Yeah.
not make those mistakes. So
I
yeah,
agree with
I
you. I agree with you. Yeah.
I don't know where we're at. Like, I I think he's a safer option, as you say, because we can't have those. I think Hugo is a liability at the moment, just in the terms of those mistakes that he's been making. But I don't like it. I'm not gonna say I
Yeah,
like having Forster as our main keeper.
like, I'm not gonna compliment Foster or Forster, but I'm not gonna then all of a sudden, like, come out and defend Hugo. Like, I'll just say they're both terrible. Like, I'd
Mm,
sooner say that than I will, like,
yeah,
defend one or over the other. In fact, I'm actually gonna stay by Forster sooner than I'd stick by,
yeah.
Hugo.
At the
That's how I
moment,
see it.
right? It's
Yeah. It's gonna need to be
the
like 4 more games of this from Forster before like, I see that. Like, it's gonna be a while.
And I think David said, and then this is kind of, I think this is probably what you think as well. Like, David's giving him a 5, and it's a good score considering what he had in front of him. And obviously, we're going to get into that. Again, yeah, I think a couple of those saves. I think he just, he needed better defense in front of him, right? I think he couldn't stop himself for a couple of those goals. I think a couple of them towards the end, he definitely should have done better. But
Yeah,
I think
I
the
agree.
defense definitely did not help him out. Ellie, hi. Welcome back, Ellie. Lovely to see you here. Thank you for joining us. That's got a ring to it, Jack and Jody, Jody and Jack. We were dreadful from 1 to 11. Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, there are a couple of players in there. I think I keep hearing everybody saying the whole squad was terrible. I mean, we'll get into it, but I don't think the whole squad was te-
Yeah,
terrible. There
I
are a
know, and
couple of
yeah.
standouts in there. But all in all, yeah, yeah, terrible, terrible game. Right, let's get into, oh god, Jaffa Tanganga. Oh, 3 and a 3, yeah. Um, you go. You wanna go? You wanna go? Or
Yeah, I'll just say, like, I don't think he was the worst of the back line, but
no.
I think it was the goal that actually we got saved from, like, an offsides, I believe it was. I think it was one of Harvey
Mhm.
Barnes's disallowed goals before he scored the one, like, 3 minutes later
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
afterwards.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the one where he had a disallowed goal, like, Jaffa Tanganga looked really poor, like, in that
Mhm.
moment, and I believe he, like, slipped and fell, and then
Oh,
he, like,
yeah.
tried to grab him afterwards. It was just,
Mhm.
like, sad to
What are you
watch.
doing there? Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
I've criticized him in the past for kind of, like, it seems like he's forgotten how to defend without fouling somebody. He needs to, like, grab onto them and, like, throw them around in order to win the ball. Like, there seems to be no sort of, like, grace or beauty to the way that he defends, like,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
I don't think he really was the worst defender, but
No,
like I
no.
said, like, I do think that Harvey Barnes disallowed goal
Yeah,
was
that
barely,
was the one.
barely disallowed, like, that should have been 5-1, and he very much, took a huge, I think, piece of that, and
Massive
so I'm
L
not
on
gonna,
that.
like, pretend like he gets away with that, so I've just left him with a 3, and he didn't do
Yeah.
anything to
No,
stand out from the rest, in my opinion, either, so I'm gonna leave him with a
no.
3.
I hear you. I'm the same. I think I, if I was trying to defend him against the other defenders by saying, it's his first game back in a while, he's a little bit rusty, all those kind of things, those cliche sort of things, which I guess is fair. But it's still not, you're a professional footballer. You're on the starting line. Well, not on the starting lineup. You're on the bench, right? Oh, you're on the starting lineup. Sorry, you did start. You should you should know what you're doing. You're in training every week. So it's not really an excuse. So
It felt
yeah,
like he
I
could have
think
done a few more things to stand out a little more. Like, he could still get, like, he could have earned a 4 or a 5 from us, you know what I mean? Like, he could have done
definitely,
maybe 1 or 2 things to
definitely.
stand
He
out a bit.
wasn't helping himself by letting, 4-1 was could have been 5-1, could have been 6-1 really. The way that the game was panning out. And I think the right hand side as well, like and we'll get into that as well, I'm sure. But I
Yeah.
think we were getting massively overrun on that right hand side, and I think that wasn't helping him out either.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So yeah, I think Leicester were really targeting that side, and I don't think that was helping Jaffet.
Yeah, most of the freedom was down that. I think you're right about that. Good point.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I agree. I think a 3 from my side, Jack. But let's
Yeah.
move to the guy.
Oh, let's
The
see.
the guy. I think maybe I'm being a bit generous here, Jack.
Maybe, alright,
when I
I don't
saw
really
yours,
when
when
we're
I
at
saw
this
yours.
level, I don't care between the one what's the difference between a
Same,
1 and a
same,
2? I
right?
don't know.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
wanna go
just, I
first
think,
maybe? I'd love
yeah,
to.
definitely. I mean, again, not really too much I'm going to have to say. I think everybody saw the game. I think, you know, oh, I don't even want to say. I'd written some notes
That's
down.
okay.
I'd written at the start, I think there were a couple of decent headers to get forward, and then the game just panned out. And then I'm like, no, 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 none of that happened. I think he was just gifting Leicester too many chances, right? I think watching the ball go past for that final goal. I think out of position for Mendy and Madison's. I think both of them potentially was he out of position for
Mhm.
both of those
Mhm.
goals.
Mhm.
Um, him kind of hanging out in that midfield like section too often. I think I just what is it with Eric Dyer at the moment? Like eh, I've always called him out. I have
Mhm.
given him grace. I think towards the end of last season, and said, he did have a good end of last season. I think he contributed to us potentially.
He had a
Uh,
decent last few games even, so
yeah,
great.
definitely. And then, yeah, the last game against Man City, like he stood up. But this one, it was just kind of like he was one of those ones that just basically stood back and didn't give it his all or give it his anything. Like I just
Mhm.
don't think he was there in this game.
This was
Like,
probably the worst defensive display, I think, from Dyer this season, and I think what's really
yeah,
says something, Jody, is, like, that's that is a high bar to finish above. Like, whereas with
Yeah.
low, we set a low bar with Lloris. That's the, for that really, it's going to take a lot to take the cake. I think to have the worst defensive display for
Yeah.
Dyer this season. Like, he's
Yeah.
had, of course, the Mo Salah, maybe best, flick on of the season. Even strikers were jealous of that flick on that,
Yep.
Mo Salah received from Dyer. He's genuinely had like probably some of the worst defensive displays of any defender this
Mhm.
season, and somehow that display last night took the cake even further. Like, it really was like an Oscar worthy, Sunday league level defender defense. I'm just going to say, I'll summarize quickly. Second goal, Davies, of course, is the one who gives it away with a really bad pass, but Dyer
Yeah.
still looks terrible in the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
that when it came to Iheanacho, I don't know what it was with Iheanacho. Maybe he like smelled really like he had too much perfume or something. Like, it was just like Dyer like refused to ever like clatter into him or refused to ever step,
Yeah,
first
he wasn't
into him.
getting there.
He
Yeah.
just kept
Yeah.
like taking steps backwards with Iheanacho. And then
Mm.
Iheanacho, like for the second goal, just like takes the ball down, dribbles right into him, and then just lays off a sitter for Madison. And it's just, I think that
Yeah.
whole goal is Dyer and Davies. I think most of it's still on Dyer. I understand Davies makes a bad pass there, but it's
Mhm.
still, I
Mhm.
think, Dyer that could have done a lot better. The third goal is entirely Dyer.
It's all
Like, it's
dire. It's
just
all dire.
it's
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's
Yep.
probably the worst defending I've seen of any center back in a long, 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 long time. And that's
Mhm.
really generally in football in general, because if I recall, Jody, I believe the ball bounced from like a position that would be above you and I's head, like even Fraser Forster's head. So when the
Mhm.
ball is like bouncing that high and you're a center back that's above 6 feet, you would
Mhm.
think that somebody like Iheanacho, you would jump up and win it, or you
Yep.
would
Yep.
jump up and make it very difficult for that guy to
Yep. Yep.
bring the ball down. The ball bounces like three more times, and then Iheanacho was able to bring it down on his left. Somehow Dyer makes it worse from there. Like, Dyer
Oh
then
my god.
lets him in onto his left and then shows him on, not even then, like after he gets beat on his left, he shows him to his left, like continues to let him
Yeah.
take it into his left. And Iheanacho is a left-footed player. I've never even seen him take a right-footed shot before, unless I'm mistaken.
No,
Someone
I
show
don't
me like a
remember it. I
right-footed
don't
shot
remember
from
it.
Iheanacho. He shows him on his left the whole way, and then even on the shot, he like does some like water balloon pose, like as if he's getting sprayed with a squirt gun, type of thing. And it's just, it's pathetic. And the fourth, and the lastly, I'll end it here. The fourth goal, the one that wasn't disallowed, the one that was allowed, it's basically this,
That
it's
was
not it's not the same, it's not as bad as the third, but it's basically like similar to the third. And that,
mhm.
again, like, he never engages, just waits for the guy to come to him, and then when the guy shoots, he just ducks and poses like this at
Yeah,
the
what was
very end.
that?
So he's done that on two or three occasions in this game. Like, so
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
That's a
Yep.
one. It's a
Yep.
Sunday league. It took the Oscar for him, and he's already had the worst defensive displays of any center back for us this season. That one was even worse,
How this
impressively.
guy got into the England squad, it baffles me, to be honest with you. When I heard that he was called up before, obviously the World Cup started, I just didn't know.
I just
It's
also
like,
really like, I understand if people have criticisms of Conte, but I really like, after a day like that, I'm like, do you really think like Conte is expected to
oh,
like, do much with
mate.
this guy? Like, please,
But this
like,
is the thing, like, people were saying, that Conte's praising the defense, right? I think he came out and said that, "I'm really happy with the defense." But, like, Conte's not gonna come out and say that he loves the defense. He's not gonna come out and say, "I love Eric Dyer." I'm not like, Conte
I
does
don't want to
not
make
love
this
this
even
backline.
political about the
Like,
managers, but let's be honest, like, Dyer, Davies, Sanchez have outlasted four
well,
managers.
yeah.
And so,
My
like,
point
that's what he's
exactly.
probably smart. Like, he's probably smart in saying, if I call these guys out, like, they're gonna
Yeah.
get me sacked, and then they're
Mhm.
gonna outlast
Mhm.
the next manager afterwards. So he's just playing the long game, hopefully, with
Yeah.
them.
Hopefully,
Leaving it
hopefully.
there. Sorry.
Leave it there. But yeah, I think I'm going to drop my 2 to a 1, Jack, because you really, you really opened my eyes about that. David Clark, you said Ian Archer couldn't get into Leicester's team all season, and we make them look like Pellet. Yeah, I mean, the thing
It was
is,
the
I kept
best performance
saying,
I've ever seen him in my entire
yeah,
life for being
yeah,
Nacho. Like,
yeah,
genuinely, he looked like
yeah,
Messi against us. He
yeah.
really did.
I mean, I had him in my fantasy team like a couple of seasons ago. He was actually quite decent, and then like he just obviously faded out. And then yesterday It's like, guy's back again. That's what Spurs
I think like
do.
all 4 goals he might have played a part in, if I'm
I
not
think he
mistaken.
did, yeah, especially the last couple from what I remember. But like, oh man, but we looked like we made the whole Leicester team look
Yeah.
like amazing. Like only Spurs can make this Leicester team look amazing. Chris, welcome. Dyer don't deserve a rating. I like that. I like that.
I mean, what's a 1 and a 2 at the end of the
What's the
day?
one and a
Chris
two?
is right.
Yeah, I think so. Give him a 0. David, it's the coach's fault after 7 years of not insisting that they get replaced. Yeah, yeah. Well, coach, I don't know. We could get politically into it like you saying, Jack, but I think we'll move on.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
avoid
move
it. We'll
on.
avoid it. It's my fault.
Ben Davies, a 4 and a 4, Jack. Yeah, I mean, I think you were just speaking about, the part that Davies had to play in I think, was it the third goal? The
Second
second
goal, I
goal?
think,
Second
yeah.
goal? Yeah, I agree with that. But I think I'll just defend my 4 because I have heard a few people in the last like day or so kind of saying how shit, pardon me, Davies was. But I actually don't like. I think he was obviously he was the best of the back 3 for me.
Yeah.
He was heading the ball forward. He was like getting us forward so much. Like I think the left hand side like was relatively okay. From my side, it was that right hand side. Obviously, they were like targeting like obviously Poro and Tanganga, but like other than kind of letting that goal in, I think Ben kind of had a pretty solid like not a great day, but a 4 of a day from my side. Like I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think, Jack? Like,
It's hard to, like I'm trying to I feel like I don't even know if I care about lowering it to a 3, but I feel like if
mm,
with what I said with Tanganga, where, like, Tanganga got away with not having a goal, allowed, and then he would have looked pretty poor. I did lower Ben Davies' rating for a very similar reason, kinda like I did Tanganga, where it's like he played a major part in one of the goals that we did, end up conceding. But I feel like Ben Davies could have done better, maybe Jody, by like what we said with Tanganga. Like maybe if he had stood out a bit more with either, putting his body on the line or maybe making like a heroic, sort of tackle to save us at some stage. Not that it would have mattered, but I think maybe that's what would have earned him a better rating. But for me,
yeah.
it's just I just find him to be like, I think if he's actually people used to say this about Dyer, where it's like, oh, if Dyer's around better defenders, like he's an incredible defender. I actually think that's probably more true of Ben Davies. I think like he's probably if he had great defenders around him, he would look even more solid and he wouldn't look
Mm,
as much of a bad defender as he does. At the end of the day, he's still not remarkable and he's still not like,
no, he's not.
anything special. So I
No.
just feel like I'm gonna give him the better rating out of all 3 of them because I think he's been the more consistent this season. So, I don't know,
Yeah.
like, maybe this had more to do with, like, how I feel like over the course of this season, he's not really been always the one at fault. So I'm just not
Mm.
gonna, like, dig him down like the others, maybe if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like maybe I missed something because I like the kind of notes I wrote down. I just felt like Davies had the better of the day from everyone, and then I have heard a lot of people criticizing him for that game, but I don't know if that goes down to the fact that just everybody didn't show up on the day, and maybe people were just I don't know. But
I think
guys, in
that's
the
well said.
comments, yeah, put some because I see Chris, you're giving Davies a 1. Like I don't know.
I don't think you can put
Let
him
us
on the same
know.
level as Dyer, Chris. I know you gave Dyer a no rating, but it's like I can't give Dyer a 1 and then Davies a 1. Like it's just
No,
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree. Maybe drop Davies down to a 3 potentially. I
yeah.
don't know, but if Dyer was around better defenders, he would be
I'll give
busy.
Dyer a -1 and then give Davies a 1 if that's okay. I'll do it that way. They just
Yeah,
have to be, like, at least 2 points apart. They gotta be 2
Davies
points
cost us a
apart.
second goal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think Jack, you called that out, right? So we're not denying that that happened.
Yeah.
But hey, all right, let's move. We've got a lot to get through. Oh,
Mm.
Edro Paro. I think what are we saying? 4 and a 3. I think I know why you gave him a higher score than me, but
I don't
do you
know
say that or
what
do you want me to go?
like, I don't know, like, if you I don't even know what I have. I think you'll probably even say probably the points that I'll say, so you go first because I feel like
Yeah,
I'll
no,
say
I
them maybe.
mean, again, I'm going to keep it kind of short, but basically, it's his first game, right? It's first game, and I feel like
Mhm.
maybe you might have given him maybe a bit more benefit of the doubt. I
No,
don't know, but
you're
maybe
spot on.
you can
Yeah.
explain to me. But
I think you nailed it.
it's his first game in the Prem. You know, he needs to get used to the players. He needs to get used to everything, and we can't. I don't think it was his fault. Like this game, you know, he was getting massively overrun. Harvey Barnes was targeting him massively yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, and I think we potentially, as a fan base, we might have got very overshadowed by Emerson's great performance last week. Potentially, I don't know. I don't think it was the best idea to start him in this one. Honestly,
Yep.
I don't think that was his fault. So the three from my side, I just think that I don't know. I just feel like for his first performance, potentially he could have done more. But again, after all those points I've just said, it's not entirely his fault. The whole team didn't show up, so I don't think it was the best game to start him in. And unfortunately for him, that's kind of how it went down. I know that he did step in to deny goal, I think, towards the end there, but the game was kind of done by that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think defensively not as good as Emerson at the moment, from what I can see.
Yeah.
And probably could have done more to kind of help get us forward, but at that point it was a bit late, sort of thing. So sorry, Poro, 3 from me. But Jack, what are you saying?
I think you summarized it quite well. All I would say is it felt unfair to throw him into this. If you were to criticize Conte, this would be probably definitely the ones that I think everybody would agree on. Like this didn't seem like the right decision to throw him into this game. Felt like, better to give Emerson, another shout. I feel
Yeah,
like though he was let down by Japhet Tanganga behind him. Japhet
yeah,
Tanganga, we all know, is even himself not full of confidence. Had it maybe been like Romero behind him, I feel like we could maybe analyze this a bit further, right? Like if
thousand
maybe he
percent,
had
thousand
someone like
percent.
Romero who we know he would get along with, um,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
still played poor, you would be like, okay, that's concerning. But the fact that
hmm
Japhet isn't very good, Kulusevski, what we'll get onto later, had a poor game.
hmm
So it just feels like yeah, let down by his teammates, like you put it. And he didn't do a lot going forward either. So I would have given him actually a
no,
5 had he done more going forward, but he didn't. So
yeah.
I'm just going to leave it with a 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely, and I
You
think I
summarized it
remarked it
well.
kind of
Yeah.
yesterday when I was watching the game that I really missed Emerson. Just, just his presence. Like, you know how busy this guy gets, and I know you're a massive. Well, I think
Yeah, I was
you're a
going to say a
massive
lot
Emerson
has
fan,
changed since the last time I've been
Jack.
here. A lot has changed.
I've secretly been. I haven't. I'm not one of those. I don't know. Maybe I need to watch my show back, but I don't think I've ever been one of these people that's
No, you weren't
massively
singing the
flat out.
song or anything
Yeah,
like that.
no, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. I've always
Yeah.
given Emerson the time of day, right? I just feel like you miss his presence because he's so busy in the game. Like you can see him the whole game, whereas with Poro yesterday, I kind of hardly even noticed him
I think
really.
you're spot on.
So,
I don't even know if I
um,
put that better. I think that's what I've always complimented Emerson about is like even during his worst games, it's like he still gets on the ball a lot. He still is
yeah,
involved. Like, and you
yeah,
can't blame somebody for that, even if they're not always having a great game, as long as they're getting on the ball, getting you up the pitch, and
yeah,
like getting involved in
and
the
showing
game.
up.
It's just showing
Showing
up,
up on the
like you
day,
said.
like,
Yeah, I
wanting
think you're
to
right.
make an effort and yeah, and giving it his all is what he does, so hopefully Tuesday. Anyway,
Mhm.
we'll get into that. Alright, let us move to I'll go to even parasitic, we'll go to left-hand side, so 2 and a 3. I think your 2 is warranted, Jack, like, I was kind of tossing up between the 2, so I feel like
Mm,
it could go either way personally from my side, like, I think in the
mhm.
first few minutes from my side, like there's a kind of a little good bit of pressure, but that was very early on in the game. But then, other than kind of like obviously you got the corner for Benty's goal, but like you couldn't really, that's just what he does, right? He just takes corners, so it's not really. I don't think it was an assist. I don't think you could classify that as an actual assist for the goal.
Yeah.
So I just think it
I
went
think
downhill from there.
I was almost tempted of giving a 1 actually in this game,
Mhm.
mostly because I actually gave him a 2 because of what you mentioned with the set pieces, because
Mhm.
even if he's having an atrocious game, he does
Mm.
have an
That in
incredible
him.
set piece
Yeah.
delivery, like, it is
Yeah.
on the money every single time.
Yeah.
So I kind of it almost feels like he gets that extra bump. Um, but defensively, he was shocking. That first
Yeah.
goal conceded, I mean, what made that really frustrating was I understand he's not a natural defender, but that didn't really come to like being a natural defender. That just came to wanting it, and I think that just
Mhm.
came to, like,
Mhm.
putting your body on the line, and I think you and I, Jody, almost any Spurs fan would have been happy to have run after Mendy there to have closed
Oh
that
yeah,
down, and we would have happy
1000%.
to have had the wind knocked out of us, taken it in the face or whatever it had been. Like,
Yeah.
Perisic, have felt like he jogged over to Mendy, knelt down, like, covered
Oh
his
my
face,
god.
covered his junk,
That was
like,
the worst. Yeah, yeah.
it just was
It was
poor
just
because he didn't
embarrassing.
even
It was
close down
embarrassing.
any angle. It felt like he gave the
He
near
just was like,
post, he gave the far post, he just sorta did what Dyer kinda did, where he just strikes
Yeah,
some sort of pose that looks nice,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
it
For
goes in the
show.
back
It
of the
looked like
net
it was for
for
show,
show,
right?
and
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
looked really poor, and then he wasn't good going forward. In fact, do you remember that one Kane, pass where, like, he was, like, one-on-one, I forget, with, like, Sutar or whatever it was, the Australian, um, and
Yeah.
he just, like, I forget what it was, he was, like, one-on-one with him, and he just decided to shoot it from, like,
Yeah.
outside the box, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And he doesn't even challenge the keeper, and you're like, "Geez, like, that's a one-on-one chance, like, you're a forward, like, you would think you would wanna challenge him a bit more there," and he was dreadful
Just
going
didn't do
forward,
it.
dreadful defensively. I
Yeah.
might say if it wasn't for that set piece, I'd give him a 1 easily.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. Like, and he was, I don't know, I don't even really know why I gave him a 3 because like throughout the game, he was the one person I kept commenting like in the WhatsApp group about like how poor he was performing. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I
It's like the
agree.
worst performance I've seen from him this season, I think
And they haven't
genuinely.
been great, really, to be honest. Like the last few haven't been. They've
No,
been
you're
up and
right.
down like the rest of the squad, but his haven't been great, to be honest. So yeah. Right. Let us move to Pierre Melchior, 5 and a 5. I
So
mean,
is this an
midsection.
example of the player that you might think that you mentioned this in the beginning, where it's like everybody has said everybody gets like
Yeah.
a 3 or below, right? And I have a huge Højbjerg
Yeah.
bias. I have a huge Højbjerg bias, but I just sort of felt like I watched that game and I don't think he played spectacularly, but he had some good
He had
moments,
some good moments, right?
and he actually
Yeah.
almost set up
Yeah.
Kane for a goal, I remember, and
Yeah.
Kane, like,
Yeah.
just didn't shoot it, or Kane,
Yeah.
like, had it blocked or something, so it was just kinda like he didn't play all that bad, really.
Yeah, he had that shot to Bentancur, I think, at the start as well. There was one up to
True.
Benty, and I think he fluffed it at the start. But there's, he took a man down early in the game. I don't know if you remember that. It wasn't called up. He didn't get like called up for it, but he kind of had a little bit of dark arts going on, like trying to like step in and make the game play out for us. And yeah, definitely, this is one of the ones, Jack. Like I feel like he wasn't getting so much love yesterday, and I don't know if that was because of just the game in general or but I do think that no one had a great game. I'm not going to go out and say that it was like a 10 out of 10 performance from Højbjerg or anything like that. He
Yeah,
gets,
neither
I
am
think,
I.
from me a 5 for showing up and kind of trying. I think he was up against it with Mendy, like, and I just think that the guys were kind of getting overrun, like by that Leicester team in the middle there. So
It's
yeah,
just hard to criticize him, like, you saw him I feel like I saw him win a lot of challenges. I didn't see him give the ball away too much, and then also another thing
no,
is, like, I think where Højbjerg is criticized, right, is, like, creating chances, but I feel like I remember him creating a few chances, like, as well, like, in the
mm,
game, like, with a few
he was,
passes
yeah,
or, like,
yeah, yeah,
winning the ball in a high, part of the pitch, and you're just kinda like, if the rest of the team just isn't putting their foot in either, it's like I feel like it's not like, yeah, like you said, it's not like he put in a worldie, but
no, no,
he didn't exactly drop to the levels that other players seem to drop to. Like, he kinda kept
agree.
his level, like, to a certain integrity, it felt like, to a certain level of respect. No.
I agree. And David, you're agreeing with us. Thanks, David. Chris, I think you're on a very low scoring.
I
Højbjerg
do
gets
have huge
3.
bias when it comes to Højbjerg. I am one of
Reasonably, he was in
the
and out of the
Højbjerg
game. I
stans.
agree.
I'm a huge
I
Højbjerg
mean,
stan,
Jack,
so I have a lot of
no
bias.
bias here. You know there's no bias here, but
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
have
get judged there.
actually well, I have actually I need to. I've put a bit of bias in my own ratings at times, not always. But yeah, this time around for me, it's not bias. I just think he showed up. He got a 5. Like from my perspective, a 5 is you show up. You don't do any silly errors. You don't make any
Mhm.
mistakes. And I don't think from my side, I don't think he did. So
I think it's a good way to put it.
um, Kevin, I actually don't know where Conti is going. Didn't address the team after Leicester. I didn't
Mm,
watch his post match interview. I kind of, to be honest, I tuned out. I know you put some sub ratings in there, Jack, but I kind of tuned out in those
I
last
didn't watch the post-match press conference. I don't
last.
watch a lot of those.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
worth it, I find it. And, unless there's, unless somehow he's come out and, really dug out the people that I know he needs to, then I'm
He
not
will
gonna
never
listen
do
to it
that.
because
He'll
he's
never
most
do
of the
that.
time, he's just deflecting anyway, so it's no need.
But you can't, can you? Like, you can't come out and say Dyer was rubbish. I don't like Dyer. I don't want him on my team anymore because you just can't. You have to lie. You have to
Well,
say
you
that he's
can't
great.
because we tried that before with Jose. This is the
Yeah,
thing, we tried that before with
yeah.
Jose, where Jose would
And the
come
team
out and
just
say,
don't show up,
"I
right?
don't tell them to make those mistakes," and it's like
Yeah.
then Spurs fans were like, "Oh, Jose's too harsh." And then also as well, we then sort of backed Dyer and backed all these players like, "Oh, Jose should do better with these guys." And it's like now we're here after one guy tried to
Mhm.
be harsh on them, now we have a guy who's unapologetically avoiding the question when when it comes to them, and it's like, which one do you want? Because I find Conte's version of it to be more torturous. It's, more
Yeah, it
torturous than,
is.
I'd
It is. It's more
rather we go
political,
back
right?
I'd rather it be back to Jose where,
Yeah.
even if he's
At
wrong on a
least you
thing or
know.
2, at least, he's giving it a bit more honestly. At least he's giving it more honestly.
At least you know what's going on. Cool. Let's go to Bentancur. A little bit of light in the ray of darkness in this game. Jack, yeah, 6-6. So again, people might be like, "That's too high for that game." Well, you can have your opinion, but the guy got a goal, and I think he deserves an extra mark for. I think, like, I think he had a couple of attempts. Two of three he had yesterday. There was
Yeah.
an attempt that Højbjerg missed, I think. So there was also like an assist, I think, at the start that Højbjerg missed, and then I think his goal was, I think it was a good goal. It came at a good time, personally. I think, blocking, heading the ball. I think this guy just he was showing up like Højbjerg was yesterday, and I think
Yeah.
um I just think he was kind of one of the only ones on the day that was actually showing up from my perspective. Like, that's what I saw and that's what I witnessed. I don't know if other people saw that, but the fact that he had two of three, shots on target, and he had three attempts, and he's a midfielder, and he picked up a yellow for us. Like, I think that kind of tells the story for you about what he did
Yeah.
yesterday. So,
I think you summarized that well. I don't know really what else to add. He scored his goal. He kind of had a similar. I think maybe had he probably just played the whole 90 minutes like Højbjerg had, and maybe kept the same levels that he was, he probably just get that sympathetic kind of 5 or 6 like we've given here.
hmm
It just maybe a different way to put it. It just felt like Højbjerg and Bentancur yesterday were not the problem.
no,
That's how I would put it.
no,
And
not at all, not at all.
they were
Yeah,
the ones, like you said, sort of doing their job the best they could, or kind of doing their job how they
better.
normally do,
Yeah,
and then the
yeah,
rest of the team just didn't show up. So I think you summarized
yeah.
that well.
Yeah, I agree. And then, yeah, just calling out hopefully we're not without him for too long as well, with that horrible knee injury that he picked up at the end of the game. Yeah, hopefully. Do we know anything more about? Have you heard anything more about it at
He's
all,
out for
Jack?
the
I don't know.
season.
Is
He's
it the
out for the
season?
season.
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
It's depressing. It's depressing. Big Papa
That's.
Matasar fan you're gonna have to become now,
I mean, I
Jody.
already am. I'm
That's
already on the
good.
Papa Matter train,
Love
Jack.
that.
So don't even worry. Don't even worry. I'm
Love
on
that.
it. Been on it from the beginning. So
Good.
yeah, no, I'm all for it. But yeah, that does
That's
scare
the
me
new
a little bit.
Bentancur for the rest of the
He
season,
better be.
hopefully.
Oh, that does scare me though. All right, let's move away then. I don't want to think about him being out anymore. Oh, Decky. Oh, Decky. What are we saying? I'll let you go first on Decky, Jack, if you want, or I can go if you want. I don't have a lot to say, to be honest. That's why I've given him a 3. But I'll say to you, I don't really remember seeing him. To be honest with you, I think he's a bit of a
Yeah.
ghost.
In fact, actually, the reason I think you don't remember seeing him is I genuinely feel like if you watched back, when they do those videos where they every touch, right, by a
hmm
certain player, right?
Yeah.
If you did Kulusevski's version of that, it would just be him having a heavy touch on every single first touch and giving it away. It was really frustrating. And I think especially
Yeah.
for a player I don't consider, I mean, I've always loved players, Jody, that don't need pace, that never require like, or depend on their sort of like, that quick burst of acceleration or anything, right? Like players that just rely on their technical ability always in games, I feel like are just incredible players to watch.
Mhm.
Kulusevski is absolutely one of those, and it was really frustrating to watch him like every single time I felt like he received the ball he had a heavy touch or like made the wrong
Yeah.
decision or it felt like he just even if he didn't have a bad touch like the touch still wasn't like the level that it normally is at where he like can pick his head up right away and
Mhm,
find somebody.
mhm.
It felt like he even took time to like get it under control and find somebody. He was just like
Massively
we'll get onto
struggling.
it later. I know people really dug out Son. I think he was worse than
Mm,
Son. I actually think he was
mm.
worse than
Yeah, I think
Sonny.
so too. I do agree. I think I might have not gonna give it away, but I'm gonna give it away. I
That's
might have
how it
given them a
maybe just to
similar
compare.
score,
Yeah.
but
I think a 3 is
but
actually more
yeah,
accurate. I think a 4 is actually really generous for me, to be
yeah.
honest, because I
Is it
don't
a bit of
every
bias
single
going
touch,
in
he
there,
gave it
Jack?
away. I feel like every
Bit of
touch, he gave it
bias?
away.
Bit of
Sorry.
bias with Decky from you
Maybe.
for that
I
4?
I think
I've
I
done that
just don't know
before.
why. I just like he's, like I said before with the midfield, it's like normally the midfield is not the problem. And for
Yeah,
me, normally the attack
the
is
attack
not the
isn't.
problem. Like
Yeah,
normally they're the
I
ones
agree.
bailing us out. And so it
Mhm.
felt hard to give them a 3. But if you were to judge them just on that game
On that
alone, I
game,
think a
yeah.
3 is actually accurate. That's accurate.
I think as well, the thing with Kulusevski is he's still young, right? And I think young players will be inconsistent. We're going to see inconsistency. We're going to see those games where he's going to get like 7 assists in 4 get like whatever. I'm kind of like going a little bit too extreme here, but he's going to get like 3 goals in 3 games, and then he's going to go on a run of not having much because I think that's just the inconsistency that comes with younger players. So
Probably.
um again, like, yeah, it's kind of like because of the way that this guy hit the ground running when he came in, and because of what we've seen from him, I think we do put a lot of expectation on him, like we put on a lot of our other players. And when he doesn't kind of maybe get much of the ball, or if he does have those heavy touches and stuff like that we don't expect from him, that's just kind of what you're going to get, I think, from not as experienced player, maybe. So
No, I mean, I think you're that was really well said, but even just to prove it further, like, if you really were just to had judged that, like, on 90 minutes alone, and you had never seen Kulusevski before, let's
yeah,
say, or
yeah,
never heard of him, you would have given
you would
him
have
a
been like,
3. You would have given him
mm.
a 3, like, I think a 3 is a very good rating,
You
actually, to
probably would
just
have been thinking what David was saying. You probably would have been thinking that he's been out drinking for 2 weeks if you'd have just seen him on that game alone.
it just felt like, well, but that is then more like with the Kulusevski that like David, because like I said before, it's not like Kulusevski, like I expect him to like have a touch and then he's like past the whole defense like with one touch. It's not like he's a burst of acceleration type of guy or like anything. He's just a guy that if you gave him a hospital pass, he's like a Berbatov, right? Where he just like brings it under
Yeah, yeah,
control,
yeah, yeah.
shields the guy off, like just does everything like perfectly, like in that moment. But it just felt like yesterday, it was like you could have given him like
Mm,
a slow trickler, like, to his feet, and he would have had like a 6-yard touch ahead of him, like, straight to the defender. It just that's what I agree
yeah.
with you, David. In fact, he looked hungover, like, but hungover for like a Berbatov if Berbatov was like hungover, where you were just like, what the hell is going on here? Like, type of guy. It's more
Yeah,
concerning when they don't rely on pace or anything type of people
yeah,
and like their touch is off and like all that stuff. Cause then you're like, oh geez, that's not good, type of thing.
I agree. I agree. Well, hopefully, Decky, we can get you back. That's what I'm always saying. Hopefully, Spurs, right? All right, Jack. We're going to Son. What are we saying about Son? A 4 and a 3.
Slightly
I
better than
think,
Kulusevski, but
yeah,
for me, not
yeah,
much better at all. Not much better at all, but
yeah.
slightly better. In the fact that I think he had more moments of like getting involved. He didn't have a good game at all,
No,
but
but
I just feel like there were some moments when he didn't have a heavy touch and he was able to like get it to Harry Kane or whatever it
hmm
was. Whereas like Kulusevski, I've struggled to remember him completing a pass type of
yeah.
thing.
I
Whereas like
saw
with
Son. I
Sonny,
didn't see Kulu.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it. I feel like we did see Sonny try to do
Yeah,
things, and he
yeah.
sorta was able to, but didn't have
City
a great
making
game.
again, really? I think for me, from Son, like that's why I said again, the City game. I didn't feel like he had the best game there because I feel like his decision making was off, and I feel like maybe again, I think he lost possession. I think, if I can remember
I feel
well.
like maybe we see those 2 games differently. I feel like in the City
Yeah.
game I think in the City game, he didn't play a major part, but he didn't do anything wrong. That's
Mhm.
how I saw the City game, like, he just didn't, like, turn it over too much, or he didn't, like, give it away or anything. Whereas in this game, he gave it away a few times, he wasn't working very hard defensively, and then, I don't know, he just didn't make a huge impact going forward, really, and so it's just like, Richie looked a whole lot better the moment that Richie came into
Yeah,
the game, so
he
that was
did.
also
He did.
yeah,
Came on too late as well, right?
yeah.
From Son, I think there was a couple of moments. I think yeah, poor pass to Højbjerg, which let Leicester get possession. I think I remember, and then I think there was a moment there. I don't know if it was was it the second half? He was about to come up to goal, and he was taking too long to pass the ball to Kane. There was kind of a bit of
Yep, I
decision
remember that.
making there. Yeah,
That's a
so
good
I
point.
think from yeah, Son, mate, it's a three. It's a three from my
I
side.
also could see why you would give Sonny a poor rating in the last game when I do think about it, because
Mm,
if any of the team you would give a bad rating to in the Man City game, it actually would have been the forward line because they wasted a
yeah.
lot of
They
counterattacks.
wasted chances, right? And I think I was an anomaly in that Man City game, with Son.
Where
I
the
think a lot of
defense was holding up
people.
the attack.
Yeah,
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 but I
I'm with
just
you.
felt yeah, anyway, that's another game. It's another game we won't get into today. Right, Jack, let's go into Harry Kane, a 5 and a 4. I honestly don't really have much to say about Kane, so,
A 5, I feel like I've agreed with all of your ratings today, Jody. A 4 is also, I think, more accurate. If I just looked at the 90 minutes, I would have given him a 4. The only reason I'm giving him a 5 is because this man has carried us and has,
Mhm.
won us so many games already this season, when we've played quite poorly, and has probably masked some quite poor performances in the past this season,
Yeah.
kinda Harry
He's held
Kane,
the team, right? Like
and so it feels stupid to, like, carry over previous performances and give him, a rating, but that's kinda what I've done here, kinda shamelessly. So a 4 is kinda what I really would give him, I'll be honest. A 4 is what I
yeah.
really would give him.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly don't have much to say about Kane. Like, 'cause he's
It's just hard to
continuing to
dig him
drop
out.
deep. Yeah.
Feels it
There
just
was a
feels
nice pass
mean.
to Perisic. That pass I think you mentioned at the start, he passed to Perisic and Perisic missed it. Like, other than that, there wasn't a lot really from Kane. So yeah, a 4 from my side. But just this question here from Chat Sport, or not question, but a comment. Imagine if Spurs just played top 4 sides every week, where would we be, or where would they be? Yeah, so inconsistency again, right? That I was saying at the start.
What's actually quite funny is I think we've played quite well in a lot of the games, even against the top 4 sides, but then we've still been undone this season by individual errors, and this is kind of why I'm still not alarmed about Fraser Forster's kind of performance, because the reason I
Mm,
think, in fact, we've been undone by most of the teams inside the top 4 this season have been because of Lloris. Not even the back
yeah,
line.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
Newcastle
yeah,
game, the Newcastle
yeah.
game was Lloris. I remember the Man United game, like, Lloris didn't cover himself in glory, if I recall correctly.
No,
Arsenal and both North London derby games, Lloris didn't cover himself, obviously, in glory. So you even, like, I remember even the games against the top sides this season, it's just like it's so hard to even get on Conte's back sometimes because you're just like
mm,
you have to like acknowledge like the major howlers that like have come across in like some of these games. Like it has been the
yeah.
season of individual errors. It really has.
Oh, massively, massively. And I don't even know. And but that, yeah, again, it's been like that for a while when we look at it. When we look at kind of individual players and kind of unforced errors from the defense from my side. And I think from my like, I think both you and I can agree that that defense has needed upgrading for years, right? A couple of seasons now, probably.
But it's also
Center back.
exhausting to, like, continue to say the same thing, like,
Yeah,
where you're
yeah,
just
it's the
like
same
it's
thing. It's like,
I mean, I love digging out Eric Dyer. I'm very good at it, as plenty of other people are digging out him, but, like, it gets exhausting, like, you do wanna point the finger elsewhere, like, you do wanna, like, not put it entirely on one player because it isn't always on one player. So that's what's also frustrating. It's like,
hmm agree.
it's been a mixed bag. It's very much been a mixed bag.
Yeah, don't like repeating myself over and over again. I agree with you. So Jack, that's going to do it. I didn't put any ratings for myself for the subs, but did you want to call anyone out particularly? I honestly kind of
Papa Montessori, I actually don't think the goal that Harvey Barnes scored actually was Papa Montessori's partially his fault. Eric
Mhm.
Dyer again, though, like as we know, did the pose, but like Papa Montessori, if you look back on it, he had a ball kind of it was like a loose ball or whatever it was, right? And it
Mhm.
was kind of high in the air. He decided weirdly, despite having like no pressure at all, he decided to like chest it towards
Yeah.
Højbjerg. He overhit it, and then Højbjerg brought it down cleanly, actually. Like Højbjerg brought it down, but then it was just like, I think Mendy or whoever it was like won it and then played it to
Mhm.
Madison. Madison plays it past Papa Matasar,
Yeah.
into Harvey Barnes. So if you were to give any of the subs a rating, you would actually maybe take like a point or two off Papa Matasar because I do think he kind of didn't cover himself in
Fluffed it
glory
a
in the
bit.
fourth goal. He kind of played a bit
Our
of a part in
Benty
that.
savior.
Just a bad give. Just a bad giveaway. Bad giveaway by him, I
Oh,
think. Unnecessary.
yeah. But he's yeah. We got to let him
But,
off.
like,
We
we're
we
already
got to
3-1 down, the game was
yeah.
over, like, I'm not, like I'm not
Yeah.
deluded and, but if you
I
were to
kind of
give a sub, like, a rating, I would give Papa Matasar, like, a 5 or a 4 or something for that, if that makes sense.
yeah, to be honest, Jack, I kind of at about that 80th minute, I kind of just tuned out. Really, I just honestly had had
Okay,
enough at that point.
okay.
I can't lie, it wasn't fun yesterday. So Spurs 89 though, welcome. Thanks for being here. We played well against City though. Yeah, well, that's exactly the point. We did. We played very, very well. It's the
That's why we're left
inconsistency.
confused. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That lends us to crime of the week, Jack. This week I actually didn't have any nominations for crime of the week, but I think what I wanted to
I
do was
have a good
just put it
one.
out there. Yeah, I assumed you would have one. I assumed the crowd would probably have a
I had a
few.
good one on
So
Twitter that I pointed out.
tell me, Jack, what is it?
When Doherty was released on the
Yes.
terminated contract, there was an
Yes.
interview with Eric Dyer, and the timing of it could not have been better before his performance against Leicester. He basically was asked about Doherty's contract being terminated and how like he, Kane, and Doherty are like this trio of good friends, basically.
Mhm.
And if you go back, I think if you follow me on Twitter, you can just see one of my replies to it. And I genuinely am not trying to be funny. It very much is like true. Dyer speaks about the loss of Doherty as if someone has died, like in the team. Like
What?
he says like one moment he's there, the other moment he's gone. Like
Oh
he
my
says things like that, and he
word!
says
These
like, yeah,
guys,
we
this is
were.
your
He said
job,
we
like.
did everything. We did everything together. He says like we
Oh,
did things on the pitch. We trained together, we golfed together. We did things off the pitch together. Like the
what?
way he spoke about
This is
Doherty's
the problem,
departure,
Jack.
exactly. As if it's a
This is the
fraternity, as if it's a
problem.
boys' club. He genuinely spoke about as if his best mate had like died. Like it really was like
So they're
that.
more
It was
interested in
bad.
the off-pitch activities than the on-pitch, which is
That was
very
crime of the
clear.
week for
It's
me,
very clear.
especially the fact that only days later like, I remember I had, I would say like 30 likes for me is a good day on Twitter if I get, something to 30 likes. And so that had like 30
Yeah,
likes. And I
yeah. I didn't
was
see
quite
that.
proud of
See if I
that.
can
And
watch
that was
that.
only 2 days before the Leicester performance. So that is very much
No.
crime of the week. With the context of the Leicester performance, that is very much crime of the week. So him
That
acting as if
just
Doherty being gone is like a crime, is actually a
but
crime itself.
I mean, this is what it's like. What if my work best friend just didn't show up tomorrow because something happened? I'm just gonna all of a sudden just throw my toys out of the
But what
pram
if
and
she, like,
not.
lived, like, right down the street or something? Like, that's what
Right.
I don't get. It's not like Doherty
You're
has,
gonna
like,
see them
died.
again.
It's like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
gonna see him again.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna hang out
Yeah.
with him, like, in the summer. Like, go visit him in
Oh my
Madrid, like,
word. These
like,
guys, I
whatever it
swear,
is.
these guys.
I genuinely didn't get it. It's like you're being paid 200 grand a week
Mhm.
to hang out with your best friend, and then all of a sudden you realize you can't hang out with your best friend every day, but you're still being paid 200 grand a week like you were
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
And he's like in
And
tears
yeah.
about it. It
Yeah.
really
And you're
is.
still probably gonna go play golf with him on the weekend. So I mean, it's not really gonna.
Oh yeah, they'll meet halfway in whatever it is, like
It's
Punta
probably gonna
Cana,
be a
or they'll
better
meet halfway
setup.
in
Yeah, you got more
whatever it
opportunities
is.
to
What's that island? What's that island, you know, in
Which
the
one?
Mediterranean?
Ibiza? No.
Ibiza, yeah, they'll
Yeah.
meet in Ibiza, exactly. Jeez.
Yeah, there's a
Get
lot of
over it.
golfing spots in Spain. I'm sure they'll go in anyway. Yeah, I didn't see that, Jack, but I'm gonna have to go back and check that. That is shocking. Well, it's not shocking actually. It's just frustrating, really. Spurs 89. Is there something to be said for Stellini's tactics versus Conte? Him and Mason tweaked Dyer more into midfield. Conte makes tweaks for late, also, it seems.
Felt like
I
Dyer
don't
was
know.
carrying in that, like, sort of tactic into this game, because what was it? The 2nd goal,
He was
like,
still
and the
quite
3rd
high
goal,
up,
like, he was
wasn't
still
he?
quite high up and caught
Yeah.
out of position. The
Yeah.
issue is that
Yeah.
I think if you were to criticize Conte and Stellini for that tactic, you would then look at Dyer's body language, and Dyer would have
Mm,
known that that player was behind him. But the issue is that on one of those occasions when Iheanacho picks it up, Iheanacho is only like 4 yards like behind him, and Dyer
mm.
likes response when Iheanacho picks it up. He's like, "Oh," and he's like completely shocked that there's like a player like sitting right behind him, like and
Yeah.
picks up the ball, and like that's
Yeah.
another example of just like his lack of understanding as a center back. Final point. Um, Also, one of the reasons I gave him a 1 is if you don't remember, Jody, one of the occasions where they almost scored from like a free header, Iheanacho almost
Mhm.
had that goal from a header. Dyer did that, which is also one of my favorites things that he does, where as a center back, he does this thing where he seems to think that someone else will take care of, like, you know, a ball into the box. I think that's his sort of like
Mhm.
trait as a mid he used to be a midfielder. I think
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Yeah.
midfielders often,
Yeah.
like, might leave it for someone else because 'cause they're not the last line of defense. Someone else
Yeah,
is usually
yeah.
the last
He's
line
gone
of
back
defense.
into that.
He did that, like, fake header where he didn't even
Yeah.
jump for it, and he coulda easily won it, and he even also did that on the Iheanacho case, where in the Iheanacho part, like, he kinda stuck a foot out, but then, like, didn't really fully because he seemed to think that someone else was just
Was
there to
gonna
clean
go
it up
there,
for him,
yeah.
and I don't know,
Yeah.
that's another thing is he seems to always think that someone else is there to clean
Gonna
up for him when he
Mhm.
forgets that he's a center back in the first place. You're the last line of defense. Like,
100%.
uh,
And that's not, sometimes back in the day, I've always given Dyer the you're a leader. He has that leadership quality and all of that, which he has done in the past. But like, you can't be doing that kind of stuff when yeah, that's not, we
the
don't
issue
really
is
have
too, though, is
anything
that when he,
like,
like, throws his arms up in the air, like, even in the
yeah,
Iheanacho goal, like, he throws his arms up in the air, and it's just like
right.
that's what Ali Gold, I think, even dug him out. Even Ali Gold has dug him
Hmm.
out about that, where he says, like, he can't be a leader if he's, like, throwing his arms up in the
Yeah.
air after he's, like, blatantly the guy that, you know,
Hmm.
conceded. Because he said it was Mo Salah's goal where he, like, did the flick on, like, to Mo
Hmm.
Salah, and apparently he threw his arms up in the air, and, like, like, Ali Gold was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're like no one else's fault there," like, sort of thing. So,
Oh, Dyer.
so many problems, so
Dyer
many
out.
problems,
Dyer
so many
out,
problems.
guys. Anyone else got any crimes of the week? I mean, honestly, from my perspective, it's just the inconsistency of the team, like we spoke about at the start of the stream. It's inconsistency, Jack. Like, I can't do it anymore, and I think we're just gonna have to see it out for the rest of the season, and it just is gonna it's gonna kill me, I think.
I think what before that game, we were sitting 5th position, and we had
Yeah.
the 6th worst defense in the league by goals
Mhm.
conceded. Now we're probably sitting, what, 4th or 3rd worst defense in the league after that game.
Mhm. Yeah.
The fact that we're still even close to a Europa League spot and we have the 3rd or 4th worst defense in the league,
It
it just
scares me
shows this
so
is kind of
badly.
again why I
Yeah.
don't give Kane like a 4 because it's just like it's kind of
Yeah.
obvious
The
what
torn,
side of the
yeah.
team is holding
Yeah.
us up and what side of the
Yeah.
team isn't doing their part. Like that's it's as
1,000%.
simple as. But it's not even just the center backs, it's the goalkeepers too. The goalkeepers haven't done a great
It's the
job.
team. It's not the whole team. It's certain members of the team. I think there's
But
probably
not just
5 or
one of them.
6
You can't pick
players.
out individuals. You pick out like 6 or 7, you know, like
Yeah.
behind
Well, I was gonna say 5 or
Højbjerg,
6,
all those
but
guys.
5 or 6 that we count on and depend on, and then the rest of them are probably just trash, really.
Well,
Well,
hopefully I'll be
Jack.
praising them next time I'm here. Hopefully I'll be praising them next time.
Yes, Yes, I mean, it will happen. There's gonna be a game where we're gonna be like 4-0 to like, I don't know, who are we playing? West Ham, maybe? Maybe West Ham? 4-0 to West Ham. Um,
Bring
and
me
on
on for
that,
Sheffield. Bring me on for
yeah,
Sheffield.
Sheffield.
Yeah. When we rub it in Billy Sharp's
But
face.
before we get to those games, Jack, we have the big Champions League game on Tuesday night. How are you feeling about it?
I'm actually still feeling confident. Call me delusional, call me a Spurs fan, call me all those things, whatever you want. I'm still
You're
feeling
gonna be
confident for that one.
confident. Yeah. Okay.
Milan are like just as bad as us right now. Like
Hmm.
genuinely, like they're playing terribly. Even Rafael Leao is like there's something going on there where he's coming off the bench and like things like that. Like it just seems a bit weird, like
Yeah.
it's just not everything's going great, let's say, at AC Milan. And
Hmm.
so let's say we get out of there with like the ugliest 2-1 loss, 1-1, like something, even a 3-1 like loss. I
Hmm.
actually have confidence we would go back to our own stadium and like, be able
Smash it,
to,
flick it out of the park. But
because it
that's the
just feels like they're
inconsistency,
so
right?
poor at
Yeah.
the moment, AC Milan. Like they are very
Yeah.
poor. And so I do expect them to put in a good performance in their own stadium.
Hmm.
But it feels like if we, let's say, spoil the party a little bit, we don't even need to like a lot, but let's say we spoil the party a little bit in their stadium at the San Siro, I'll be confident. So
Yeah.
that's all that needs to be done. So
Yeah. You gotta
it's not a
be. You
lot to
gotta be
ask.
confident.
Don't even
There's
play
not.
pretty football. Just make it as ugly as possible. Get out of there with a good result.
Is Romero will be back, right? For that, he's only here
Romero will
one
be
match
back.
ban. Yeah.
The
So
issue is the midfield more than anything, is that we
yeah, we're
will be
struggling,
going
aren't
with
we?
Skip and Sar, and so we'll
Mm,
see how that
that's not
goes.
good.
We'll see
That's
how
not
that
good.
goes.
How do you know
Yeah.
how long's Basuma out for? Do we know?
Like,
Don't know.
likely
We
the
don't
end
know.
of the season, I'd
Oh,
imagine.
again,
He
right.
got a surgery. I think he had to have a
Hmm.
surgery for it. And another thing that's, for another time, but his thing was like a stress fracture, and a stress fracture is more to do with like something being overworked, right? So it's like
Hmm.
having an injury somewhere. So like it could be anywhere. Like you'd have a stress fracture to your, to your
Yeah.
wrist, but if you keep like working your wrist every single day, like that's leads to a stress fracture because you might
Hmm.
have had an original injury there, but then it just eventually leads to like a stress fracture. And so that's like
Yeah.
concerning because then that's not really more Basuma's fault. That's more either the training staff or Conte's training regime or the
Yeah.
medical department. It's like a combination of those three or one of them. Like, and that's also a concern because there have been a lot of
Yeah.
players this season who have like
Rushed
barely
back
played,
quickly,
or like
or
Richarlison
yeah.
has like barely played but
Mm.
is injured all the time.
60
Like, why
mil
is that?
player has hardly ever we hardly seen him.
But
So
injured all the
that's
time and like barely
mm,
plays. Like, why is that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, the Conte training thing definitely has a part to play in it. I think like we know how hard he likes to train his players, so I don't know. But yeah, one step forward, one step back, FC. Yes, Spurs 89. You are correct. Jack, anything you want to talk about before we wrap up today? Anything you want to promote from you got any shows coming up? I'm sure you guys are
Therapy
always
session tomorrow, fan
fun.
show. Come and join us. If you want to have a chat with me and Dave, come on and have your
Yeah.
say, please. Fan show tomorrow. That's it.
Go check them
Thanks for
out,
having me.
guys. No worries. Thank you for coming back. It was long overdue, and hopefully we'll have you back very, very soon for
A
probably,
lot has
hopefully a
changed,
better.
I feel like Emerson's getting his
Yeah.
praise. Dyer all of a sudden is,
Oh,
not on
it's
the good
all.
ends of people's books. A lot has changed in that span of time. But yeah, thanks for having me.
No worries, Jack. And thank you guys for being here tonight. Please, if you haven't already, like the show if you liked it, and subscribe to Paxton Road TV. But yeah, guys, hope you guys have a good couple of days coming up, and like really just take it in, just take that loss in, and then we'll move into Tuesday, and we'll get better, and everything will be fine. Let's just keep the positivity flowing. And yeah, we'll see you guys very soon. Come on, you Spurs.